Hey guys, it's Sign here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing another wrap-up video. Today we're looking at what I read in September and what I enjoyed on television in September as well. And because I started an internship this month, and it's a full-time position, well, nearly full-time, I think I end up working about 30 hours a week instead of the standard 40 or 45. So it's not quite full-time. But because I also have 3 MBA classes, which is a full course load, I basically feel like I have no time at all for myself, even though I actually do. It feels like it's not enough, right? And that has led me to kind of feel like I like reading is a bit of a chore at this point. And so it hasn't been the best reading month in a while, but at the same time, that's okay. It's not that big a deal. I did end up reading like 4 novels anyways, so there you go. Although most of these I read during lunch because I have to take 30 minutes of lunch every day. There's no way to avoid that at my work. Or they were read either during class when I didn't want to focus on what was happening because it wasn't important, or whatever the case may be, right? Because MBA classes are a lot of discussion and talk, and sometimes the professors prefer discussing over lecture. And so when they do lecture, it's kind of like they want to get over it as well, right? And so sometimes I just clock out and do other stuff in class. But that's not really that important. Let's jump into what I watched and what I read. And then hopefully I'll be done relatively shortly with this, right? So in terms of what I've been watching, I finished up Dan to Dan Season 2. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to buy the DVD for it when it comes out. I did end up buying myself a new Blu-ray player so I can finally play the Blu-ray edition that my sister got me for my birthday. And I did play it. It was really nice. I have not rewatched it. I just kind of made sure that it worked, and it does. And I will definitely buy Season 2 when it comes out in a nice collector edition, right? I also started watching Togen Anki, but I did stop watching it at some point just because I kind of didn't get around to it. But I don't dislike it. I think it's fine. I think it's like very blatant about how inspired it is, in quotation marks, from other series, because it really steals like a little bit out of everything, and it doesn't do a good enough job at blending it so you don't think it's something else, right? Like the outfits look like Fire Force, the powers are like Fire Force, but they're also kind of like Naruto like type powers, like the what are they called? The Aburame clan, like the bug people from Naruto. Like one of the powers in Togenanki just looks like that. Because there's 2 power systems in Togenanki, right? Because it's basically Momos versus Onis, right? Like the Momotaro story. The Momos are like the hero characters, right? But they're actually the bad guys. And the Oni are actually the good guys, even though they're technically the monster characters, right? And so the monster characters have powers based around blood. So it's like blood bending, but really it can be whatever you want it to be. Kind of like how Fire Force is all fire powers, but that's not really the case. And the Momos have like disease powers or something, like cell manipulation powers or whatever. But the way they look is like the Aburame clan like texture that they had for those powers, right? Like the bug swarm, right? And the concept, like the Momotaro versus Oni concept, is good, but it might be the only sort of original thing that the author came up with. Everything else is stolen from other things, right? Mostly Fire Force, Fairy Tail, Attack on Titan. There's one character that just has like Naruto powers, like he literally just makes Rasengans, and apparently that's different enough because it's red instead of blue, whatever. And there's a bunch of other stuff like that. Like there's a chainsaw character, there's a gun devil character. All of this stuff is just very, very blatantly ripped off. And I don't mind per se, but it's just kind of ridiculous how blatant it is, right? Because Japan is like anti any sort of parody, any sort of like anything, like legally speaking, right? And so it's kind of weird that this series somehow managed to avoid that, because in Shonen Jump there was a series that was canceled just because the kind of main concept was future time travel like plagiarism. Like, it wasn't even real plagiarism, and it got canceled because people didn't like that. This series is actual plagiarism in real time, and no one gave a shit. And apparently it's like popular to have like 30 volumes and an anime, and I don't know how that happened. Which sounds like I hate it, but I actually enjoy watching it. Particularly, I like the boxing girl character. She's great. She's really wild, but she's fun. And that's basically all I've been watching. The only other thing I watched this month was Peacemaker. And I was kind of watching it once a week when it came out. And then I stopped watching it. And then I just caught up last night. And or the night before that, on Sunday, I think. And that's basically all I've watched. I like Peacemaker. I think it's fun. The fact that it's like a Nazi universe that he's going into is crazy. But whatever, like, it's enjoyable. It's fun. It's really the boys in the DC universe, and that's fine with me. I like it. That's basically all that I watched, though. In terms of reading, I read through a bunch of different Robert E. Howard type things, mostly single stories. I read through The Haunter in the Ring. I read through The Bulldog Breed and Fist and Fang, which are boxing stories. I read through The Savage Sword of Conan. I read through one of the Fist of Iron stories, the first Ace Jessel story, which is The Spirit of Tom Molyneux, which means that I completely failed at Cimmerian September. But it's fine. It is what it is. I will read the second Ace Jessel story, hopefully tonight or maybe tomorrow, and maybe I'll just do a short video on Ace Jessel as a character, because he's interesting. He is a character that you would not expect Robert E. Howard to write about. First of all, Robert E. Howard is from the 1920s. You would assume that he would have issues with black people, and if you read Conan, you would definitely think that that's the case because of the way that he writes Stitchins, which are like the Hyborian Age version of African people, or actually particularly they're supposed to be the Hyborian Age version of Egyptians, right? But they're black. And Ace Jessel is a black guy. He's a mighty ebony heavyweight champion, is what they describe him as, right? And the way that he writes him is kind of making fun of him. Like, Ace Jessel has like a horrible, like, you know, slave accent. He speaks horribly. Like, he doesn't know how to speak English properly, basically. And yet, his trainer has a lot of respect for him. The crowd love that he's good at fighting. And because Robert E. Howard cares about that idea of atavism, this idea that men ultimately want to fight, and that it's like built into them, right? And not just men, but like humanity. There is a certain level of respect he imbues into his writing for for Ace Jessel and for Tom Molyneux, who's also a black guy. And so it's almost it almost feels like this should not be something that was written by a guy from the 1920s. And yet it does happen to be true. And so I had an odd kind of situation with that. Like, I wasn't sure how I was supposed to feel about the story. Because on one hand, like I said, it feels like he is putting this character on this sort of like awesome pedestal, right? And on the other hand, it's like, well, why do you make him so cartoonishly like inept at like language and like at speaking and all of these kind of like things? And it's just kind of weird. And I guess maybe he just thought, okay, this is what people in this time period talk about, so I'm going to write like that. And it just comes off kind of shitty at this point. I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm sure there is some of that, but it kind of makes me confused about what Robert E. Howard thought about, black people. And it's kind of interesting to think about. I don't really think that there is a consensus or a final answer, right? But it's just kind of interesting to think about, right? So that's basically it for Cimmerian September. In terms of reading novels, I read through Our Own Way, which is a new version of this story. I did a review for it previously. It's a slice of life Hamlet story by Misty Vixen. It is the closest you'll get to like a Japanese rom-com light novel in English, but also it actually deals with adult like topics and not just like perpetually in high school and the characters never actually realize their relationship, right? This like has the characters consummate their relationship and expand their relationship quite quickly. This version is new because it is an expanded edition. Misty Vixen wrote the original one, liked it, saw that there was success with it, and decided to go back and change it and make it bigger, better. And broadly speaking, it is the same concept, but the way in which it moves, the characters that are introduced, and when they're introduced is a bit different. And there's more to it than before. At the same time, it all still felt very similar to me. Like, I don't necessarily think that I wasted my time reading this new version, but I don't necessarily think I also encountered anything significantly different in my reading experience that made me think that it was better to read it this way than previously, right? Because I was on a Misty Vixen kick, I decided to read her other slice of life rom-com harem-lit story, which is called Lakeside Cougars, which deals with a young man and cougars, not animals, like women. And this one was also pretty good. This was a pretty fast pace in terms of its relationship development, but it was pretty enjoyable. And it is kind of like an equivalent to like a Ghost Ship title, like Seven Seas, manga. It has that kind of vibe to it. But, instead of just being teasing type stuff, it actually gets to like the consummation of their relationship. And it was pretty good. I don't necessarily think I would buy more of it, but I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed it. It's not enough of an enjoyment for me to review it on the channel. But maybe in the future I will come back to it. I'm not really sure. And, usually I don't think about it that way. Like, I usually review everything I read. But at this point, with how much time I actually have to dedicate to the channel, it doesn't make sense for me to review everything I read. And so I will talk about things that I might not review on the channel in the wrap-ups and in the check-ins going forward. And that's just kind of how it's going to have to be until I finish my schooling and I have more time to dedicate to the channel again, right? Then I stopped reading novels for a few days and I focused in on comic books. And in terms of comic books, I read through Bone, and I read through Bone 1 and 2, which are right here. This is Bone Out of Boneville and The Great Cow Race, and this is really fun. It's a very easy, accessible story. It's for children, so it's not like it was very hard for me to read. And I read each of these in about 30 minutes in a single sit down, right? Each. And it was great. I really enjoyed it. I like that it's in color, but I feel like the margins are too big. Like, I feel like this could have been a larger page format, and I'm not really sure why it wasn't. And I know that this is an issue that all of the Bone editions have anyways. Like, they get bigger, but the margins are still kind of like relatively the same, right? Which isn't great. The art style is great. I really enjoy it. And I like the fact that it's a fantasy story. But it's also a ridiculous comedy, and it's also like a romance story, and it's a lot of things that you wouldn't expect from a kid's, cartoon or kid's comic, and yet it does all of them really, really well. And I will review this on the channel eventually, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, but we'll see. I'm not really sure. And then I read DC Mech. This is basically if the DC universe was actually Pacific Rim, essentially, and it's pretty good. It is obviously very, very inspired by mech anime. A lot of it is like Gundam and a MAME, Warrior of the Battlefield based, and of course Ava as well. Some of the designs are like based on Ava, some of the designs are based on Gundam, and some of them are based on that other series that I mentioned. And here is what they ultimately look like at the end. Very, very cool. The Superman one reminds me of the Iron Giant. I'm not really sure why. And the other ones, have different vibes to them. So, yeah, but it does feel like a Pacific Rim type of story, more so than it does feel like a space opera mech story like Gundam, or a, religious, sort of concept like Evangelion. It's a very straight, kind of like forward concept like Pacific Rim. So, yeah. Then I read, let's see, what other comic books did I read? I read a little bit of this, Time in Overdrive, about the first 60 pages or so, and man, I love this thing. It's so great. The artwork is phenomenal. Like, I just love how this looks. There's not really as many dinosaurs as I thought there would be, but when they are, available or visible, they look phenomenal. I love how that looks. Just so cool. And I will finish reading this in the next couple of weeks probably. I would take it with me to work, but it feels kind of weird to pull out a real book instead of just like browse my iPad or whatever. So maybe I won't do that, but we'll see. And then I read a bunch of single issue comic books. We have the Savage Sword Conan number 10. This is great. I really enjoyed the Sailor Steve Costigan story, another boxing character from Robert E. Howard. It was really great. The art style was awesome because it's by Rob Del Torre, and the Hurley cover here is phenomenal. Then I read a bunch of comic books. We have Sonia Reborn, which is an isekai story of a woman that gets transported into Red Sonja's body, which is pretty interesting conceptually. I'm not sure that it's landing quite well, though. You have Batman versus Deadpool, which is pretty fun. I was going to do a review for this, and I decided not to because by the time I get around to reviewing it, it'll be a month or 2 months after it came out, and it doesn't seem like that many people liked it. I think that the big fans of comic books, the ones that were around when the first round of DC Marvel crossovers came about, are very happy with it, but the newer generation, the younger people, are not that excited about it. And I can understand that. I actually really enjoyed it. I think it was fun. It was good. There were some things that were better than others, in my opinion. Like, I really enjoyed the Green Arrow and Daredevil one, even though I'm not a fan of Daredevil. I also liked the Captain America Wonder Woman story because it's about soldiers that stand for, these high, lofty concepts, and the fact that they shouldn't bend their rules. And I think that that's valuable. Some people disagree because the way that they were, exemplifying this is by not killing Hitler, which, of course, I think most of us would assume is like a pass. Like, you can kill Hitler. It's okay, right? No one will think less of you about it. But the point of that story was that that doesn't matter. You will be lesser than you were if you give into this sort of ideology, right? You have to stay true to your values, which is a good lesson to teach people. In terms of Deadpool versus Batman, it was fine. I don't dislike it. I didn't love it. I thought it was a perfectly serviceable story. It was enjoyable. It was pretty funny, but it's just not one that I care about because I don't like Deadpool and I don't like Batman either. So it is what it is, right? The other ones were fine. I don't really have too many opinions on anything else. We have Conan the Barbarian number 24. Awesome end to year 2 of Conan the Barbarian. And I think that Danino should stay as the main Conan artist going forward. I like Rob Del Torre a lot, but I think he doesn't want to do a monthly series. So he can't be in it if he doesn't want to be, in charge of that. So just stick him in Savage Sword, let him flourish over there, and let's move on from him in the main series, right? Danino seems to really enjoy what he's doing, and he draws really well. And it has a very specific kind of like old school, kind of different style to him because he has a European kind of vibe to his work, right? Doug Braithwaite seems to be someone that continuously is happy to work on this, and he does a good job. But his style, compared to all the other European artists that have been employed in Conan, has the style that is most, realistic in some ways. And although it works, and I actually quite like it, I think that it would be better for him to do black and white artwork because it would work better for the level of detail he puts into his work, since the colors kind of muddy some of the detailing he adds, right? Particularly in some of the earlier work, right? And so maybe it would be better for him to also transition away and just have one main artist or at least one main style instead of jumping around like they have done in the first 2 years. And I think that that's a conversation they're probably having. I'm not really sure, right? But I would be having that conversation if I was in charge, right? So it is what it is. We have Lilith number 5. This is a good ending to this first volume. I will probably buy volume 2 when it does come out. But at the end of the day, this is just Vampirella meeting a, quirky millennial-style girl and developing a relationship with her in some way, even though she was only just using her at the beginning, right? If you like, Vampirella, you'll probably like this. If you like characters like Aaron Solstice, which is like a quirky, like manic pixie girl, but not really kind of character, and she's from The Wandering Inn, if you guys don't know what that is, you'll probably like this because it's basically Vampirella meets Aaron Solstice and they seem to fall in love or something, right? And it works really nicely for me, but I can see why it wouldn't really work for other people. Also, there's a certain level of sexiness that is implied by a lot of the secondary artwork associated with the series that I don't think actually is shown in the actual story. So, your mileage may vary with that as well. We have Witchblade number 13. Great cover. I really enjoy this. I don't have too much to say about this issue, though. I think that it's doing a good job. It's continuing on with what it's doing. And I think that it'll be pretty exciting going forward. But it was basically just one big battle sequence. And so there really isn't anything I can say that isn't completely spoilers or that does anything about character work, because most of it was about this fight scene that does end up kind of culminating in something that is character work, but the ramifications of it won't be seen until later. So it's not very discussion friendly, if that makes sense. We have Transformers number 24, which is the end of Dana Warren Johnson's run. What a sad day it is, because I really love his writing style. I think that he does a really great job at exploring relationships between humans and robots in this. And he also does a really good job at exploring fatherhood through Optimus Prime as the leader of this group of lost children, basically. And I don't know that Robert Kirkman's going to be able to live up to that. I think that he will probably have a better take on the space aspect of Transformers than Dana Warren Johnson does, but I also think that I don't necessarily need that too much, right? So we'll see how that works out. Then we have Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong number 2. This is actually issue number 4, though. Pretty good. Not much to say with this one. It does what it needs to do, and it's pretty enjoyable to read. We have Flash Gordon number 11. Really good story here. This cover does not match what's going on inside at all, because actually what's going on inside is a battle between good Flash Gordon and bad Flash Gordon, not between good Dale Arden and bad Dale Arden. But this is a good cover nonetheless. Just doesn't quite match what's going on inside. Then we have Immortal Legend Batman, which is about what if the Batman cowl or legacy was actually a Power Rangers power, and it's kind of badass, and it's really fun. The art style is not my favorite. Erica DeOrso is not necessarily my favorite artist out of all of the, extended Power Rangers creators that are all friends with Kyle Higgins and Matt Groom. But Dan Mora's part of it was phenomenal. I really, really liked it. Also like the concept behind this. Basically there are humans. They go into space. In order to do space travel, they end up messing with nature, and this actually causes a rift in space, sort of. And from it come these things called shadows, which are like a dark version of our universe, or creatures from a different universe that's the dark version of our universe. And we knew that we could harness energy. And so 3 people decided to harness the light side, the dark side, and both. And they created these 3 different mantles, which are the way of the bat, the way of the Robin, and the way of the Nightwing, which are, Robin is the light, Batman is the dark, and Nightwing is both, which is exemplary of what these characters represent within their own mythos, right? And obviously Bruce Wayne is Batman, Dick Grayson is Nightwing, although he is not a circus kid, he is actually a jockey pilot in this one, and Tim Drake is Robin. That kind of makes sense because most of the other Robins are kind of dark. There is a female Robin, or a female Nightwing that was shown as the original Nightwing porter, I guess, of the mantle. But a lot of that isn't really explored in this first issue. Mostly it's just introducing us to this version of the Power Rangers that have Batman powers. And it's pretty cool. I liked it. We have Justice League Unlimited number 10. Not much to say. This is chugging along really well. I love the artwork in here. And Mark Waid's not necessarily my favorite writer, but he does a pretty good job. So it is what it is. We have Wonder Woman number 24. Great cover here by Homare or Homar. I'm not really sure how to say their name. And this arc is horrible. But also, I love Sampier's artwork. And I tolerate Tom King's writings. So I'm going to continue. And hopefully it doesn't last too much longer. It seems like it's kind of reaching its end. and we can move on to better storytelling, because I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know why Tom King was like, a rat guy, that's who Wonder Woman's gonna fight, and it's taking for freaking ever to get through it. It's actually kind of annoying how long it's taking, but it is what it is. Then we have Rogue Sun number 29. Pretty good. I enjoyed the dynamic here between the two Rogue Suns that we have. And finally, we got rid of Caleb, which is an ancient Rogue Sun, which is good. We have Ultimate Spider-Man number 20. Good story here. The ending there where Mary Jane beats the shit out of Gwen Stacy is pretty awesome. Felt pretty interesting. We have Ghost Pepper number 2. Good story here. It kind of is building the world a little bit more and explaining to us that Ash is actually who ended the cataclysm kind of thing that was happening, before. And kind of sets up that the world is not what it seems like, right? Which is cool. Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe. Fairly enjoyable. The artwork was a bit more enjoyable this time than it was in the first issue, but the writing is still kind of mid. I'm not really sure I like it, but I don't dislike it either. Transformers number 23, great ending for this issue, but I am unhappy that Dana Warren Johnson is stepping away in the next coming issue, which it is what it is, right? We have Bug Wars number 6, interesting ending. Not sure I liked the series by the end of it. I thought that the beginning of it was really good. The first 2 or 3 issues were pretty great, and then it kind of went downhill, mostly because I think that this series needs a lot more breathing room, and it was kind of truncated a lot. And also still felt kind of slow. So there is kind of different situations playing there that don't really make sense to me to lead to that kind of feeling, that kind of lack of cohesion in terms of the pace of the story. And hopefully, they come back and it's better, but I don't know if I'm going to pick up the second issue or the second volume, right? Then we have Marvel All-on-One, The Thing versus Marvel Universe. This was a pretty fun, not real story. Is pretty long, and all of it looked really awesome. Ed McGuinness does a great job with the artwork here, but I don't necessarily think that this was worth $8. I think that it's probably worth like $4, so get it secondhand if you can. And then we have Justice League Dark Tomorrow Special, which is fairly enjoyable, with Mark Guggenheim, Mark Waid, Torme as the artist, and Fajardo Jr. as the colorist, and it was pretty good. I liked it. This kind of sets up the fact that Booster Gold missing after his interactions with Darkseid at the beginning of the of the Absolute Universe are going to have ramifications going forward, and we need to know what those are, but we don't know yet, so we'll see what happens. And we have Aquaman number 8. This is the last book in this series that I'm picking up. I don't dislike it. I enjoyed it, but I don't necessarily think that it was the best story ever. So I decided that I needed to cut some stuff, and this was an easy one to cut, so we did. Then we have Trinity, Daughter of Wonder Woman, issue 3. This one was probably the worst issue out of all of them, just because it was a Groundhog Day type story that didn't really amount to anything. But the artwork is phenomenal in this. I love it so much. And there was a pretty nice father-daughter moment there, which I liked. Then we have Gehenna, Naked Aggression. This is a really fun, ridiculous, noir-esque kind of superhero story, and it's pretty enjoyable, and I love the artwork here. It's just so ridiculous and over the top, and yet also very enjoyable to read, which is great. Then in terms of manga, I read 7 Little Sons of the Dragon, which is a short story collection by Ryoko Kui. I didn't love any of the stories, but I did like some of them. I thought that they were pretty enjoyable. There were some that I just did not appreciate at all. And I don't know if that was me or just because Ryoko Kui's short form storytelling is not as good as her long form storytelling. I'm not really sure, but there are 7 stories, which is why it's called the 7 Sons, and they're all about dragons in some way or something related to mythology in some way, right? And so we have a story with a mermaid, we have a story with paintings coming to life, we have several stories about dragons, and overall, fairly enjoyable read. Not necessarily my favorite. At this point, if I only have a limited amount of reading, I would have preferred not to have read this and read something else instead. But also, how would I know that without reading it? So I'm gonna keep reading stuff that I probably won't enjoy that much, and it's fine. I also read 3 different light novels. They were all in the same series. I read My Quiet Life as a Blacksmith in Another World, which is one of these isekai things where the character doesn't really want to rule the world or be a hero or anything, but He just wants an easygoing life with a hobby. And for whatever reason, his hobby is important, and so it ends up leading him to becoming important in the universe anyways, right? In this case, he is a blacksmith who has magical powers, right? Because he has a cheat skill. And so his ability to make weapons is unmatched by anyone, right? And so he gathers a blacksmith apprentice. He gathers connections with rich, nobles, and with different female characters of different races and persuasions and stuff like that. So he ends up with a tiger girl, a dwarf, a elf. He ends up with a dragon who's also female, I think, which is kind of funny. She's actually a drake, so she's not a human character. She's a pet, because it's like a proper animal. She's basically the equivalent of a horse, right? But the fact that it's also a girl is kind of ridiculous. And a mercenary, and a whole bunch of other characters like that. And it is kind of like a harem novel, but also it's not really about that at all. It's about a character who takes in these lost people and gives them a home, and through that he gains, his own family, a family he never had before, and also notoriety and the ability to just live his life the way he wants. And the first volume is basically the introduction of the dwarf character. The second volume introduces us to the mercenary character. The third volume introduces us to... the second volume introduces us to the elf character. And the third volume introduces us to a demon girl. And basically the first three volumes kind of are a single arc, essentially. It starts and ends with a character going through an interaction that cements another character as the leader of the region, right? And there's kind of this like time travel element associated with it, where we'll see about things in the far future that help us understand what's happening currently in the story, which is pretty cool. I really enjoyed them. I love light novels because they're just so easy to read, and yet they still provide like an enriching reading experience. And I want to buy more in the series, but I don't know if I want to pay $8 for an ebook that I can't download, because if I buy it from J Novel Club, it's mine. But at the same time, that's a lot of money for a digital file that cost me 0 cents to, copy and paste. So I don't know. I feel kind of unsure about it. But I did buy the first three because they were like $2 each, and that's much more accessible than $8 in my case, or to my taste. So yeah, that's everything I read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble for 30 minutes. And let me know what you read down below. Did you read anything similar to me? Did you read anything different from me? Let me know. I want to hear about your reading experience this month. And thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.